Okay, so moving on, our next speaker is Dr. Benjamin Guy. He's the founder and CEO of Urban Circus Australia. Today, he'll be talking about advancing approvals and master planning. I would like Dr. Benjamin to please share his screen and share his thoughts about it. Thank you.
Greetings, you can hear me?
Yes?
Dr. Hafiz?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Today I won't be doing a PowerPoint presentation. I will actually just be demonstrating.
I think the voice is a bit low. Can you adjust the volume?
Ask me that again, please.
I think your voice is a bit low.
My voice is a bit low.
Yeah.
I can probably just talk louder because I don't know how to turn up the volume on the voice.
Better, yes.
Is that better? How's that?
Perfect.
Urban Circus is about developing great cities, and we believe now that more than ever that it is a fantastic time. It is an important time to be developing quickly and well, and I'll be demonstrating some use cases on how, using technology we've developed and 20 years of experience, certainly across Australia and other global cities, in property and infrastructure space, we can help clients in projects large and small to move faster and ensure better integration is really our value proposition. So I'm going to show that today live and ready to go. I think there's even a record button here in this system, isn't it? I don't use Zoom very much. We're more a Teams agency. Okay, let's get on and show, because I'm going to talk about approvals, property approvals. Video. What we might do is start with an example, and then I'm going to show you how this works. Here's an example of a city. The city happens to be Melbourne, and here I am, a person in the city, and we've been founded on an urban design principle at Urban Circus. It's named after a place called Oxford Circus in London, if you've been there. And we're going to look at the ability to rapidly assess and review and develop property. So a lot of the work we've done has helped cities like Melbourne, Adelaide, Canberra, Perth, other cities have a little bit of a property development boom by doing exactly this process we're seeing right here. If you look on my screen, we've got this little man and he's standing somewhere in the street, and here the camera is in an interactive model. This is live 3D. We are able to test a whole bunch of functions we can see here on the left around GFA, which is gross floor area for those who aren't in property, and floor area. So this is one example being done tens of thousands of times across a couple of decades to enable us to ensure that when we're building something in the city, we can have these conversations very quickly and make sure it integrates. And then what we've done, once we've got the, let's bring this video back a bit, once we have, we're happy with that concept, and those conversations are very complex and multifaceted across different members of the development assessment process, which is architects, engineers, proponents, and regulators, and many different types of those. And then what we can do is bring in the actual proposal itself, or many versions of the proposal. So what you can see here now is a very fast process that enables this design review in the property sector. And here we are doing shadow analysis, and we also support that simultaneously, so it can be in the same space, and also separately in infrastructure, in the infrastructure sector. So let's just play that video again, so you get the idea. It moves pretty fast, but really where the value proposition is about speed. Oh, here we go. We're going to show a different example. So here's the similar concept for another tool we've built around to get us out of COVID. We want to be doing a lot more walking in pleasant spaces, a lot more public outdoor spaces. This particular little thought bubble was because I stayed here in Sydney beaches, and there's these lovely pedestrian paths along the beach, but they're actually quite narrow and they're very popular. If anyone's been to Bondi or Coogee or other beaches along Sydney. And so to do the planning and to do the assessment of testing, changing the pedestrian path, adding a bicycle path, these are all just thought experiments, is typically a very long and slow process. It may take months, years of consultant studies, and oftentimes these studies are not ground true. They're not integrated. So here you can see we've got a certain type of data in the background, different to the Melbourne example. This data is called photogrammetry, which is a bit of a modern data. It's fantastic type of data. You can see here we've got a whole bunch of information to a modest level of detail, and that allows us to get in. We've got gradients. A lot of these gradients are non-disability compliant, for example. 9% is too high. And so then we can literally in a day or 2 days start to assess and plan. You can see bicycle paths and footpaths here. So the value proposition of that to anyone who's managing a bikeway, a foreshore, a series of assets is the ability to move much, much faster. Save time, save money, and then when we're actually doing the construction process, you're going to save a lot of time and money because things move much, much quicker. So I'll give you another case study amongst this. For example, in the construction process, this is the same type of data, and here we are, we're going to analyze. So now this is a different example, but it's the same concept. If you're actually building and constructing these projects, then you need the capability to do what's called site logistics and construction logistics. So you can see here we've built within the same piece of technology opportunities to get in and do the site layouts and the planning live and in real time using this, in this case, this photogrammetric data. And here's another example of the same thing. This is a very popular post on LinkedIn. So again, this is photogrammetric data, and now we're moving in and we're doing some measurements. You can see we put some RLs, relative levels, down, which gives you the height of things. And then oftentimes we've got a clearance zone, or we've got a layout zone in this particular case. And then we've got a whole bunch of assets and objects that you can place into the scene and start doing your logistics layout. This is very useful for people who really are at the coalface, site managers, foremen, project managers, needing to do the site layouts on a day-to-day basis, daily briefings, weekly briefings, and instructing people from a safety point of view and a whole range of other elements to keep the team organized and moving forward and make things quicker. For example, here, let's move the donga from this location to that location. That now it's pretty much done by pen and paper or an aerial photograph with a picture on it. And what we're doing here is smart clients are taking this technology and using it in this new way. It's really saving a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of risk. Similar, same site. What we've done here, so fencing layouts, we've actually built a smart parametric tool for making fences and walls and elements like this. So we've moved into the site. You can see my construction workers here. It's very important from a safety point of view to keep a range of functions separated, and just doing this is another example, very similar to the pedestrian path, bicycle path maker that I showed earlier. To get this rolling, it really makes life easier, and we're having calls from construction companies all around the world at the moment who are keen to deploy this. And the reason I'm here today is to offer those services around here to the audience. Similarly, same sort of concept, same sort of data here, which I'll go and show. I might slow this video down because it goes pretty fast. This is the idea, light rail. We've been a massive proponent of light rail, and we're part of the planning process for some of the earlier light rails, particularly the early stage of the Gold Coast light rail, which just got awarded to one of our clients, the third stage down to Burleigh Heads, a beautiful part of the Gold Coast in Australia. If you haven't been there, it's always good for a surf. What you can see we're doing here is the ability to test and lay out light rail scenarios very quickly and on the fly. Possibly the world's fastest tool for doing this. So again, the value proposition I'm putting forward to the Smart Cities Conference is this ability anywhere in the world, inside pretty much any type of data, particularly this photogrammetric data, to be able to test, plan, and review in a very realistic way these opportunities that we have for building the future. So again, we're grabbing a whole bunch of assets that might be available. They may be your particular vegetation. So you should be able to see here on screen the surveyed trees, and these are proposed trees. Just as an example, that can be your street furniture, your lamp posts, all sorts of elements. Now, built within this, it says here, for example, you can see red. Red is bad, green is good, fairly standard visual representations. So here, a minimum radius of 450 meters is required, and a sag curve with a K value greater than 100. And this has a K value of 50 effectively. So what that's giving you is some compliance feedback. Now, we're not building a modeling tool, we're building a planning tool, and we're very passionate about integration and creating great cities. Building is not always enough. Building well is what you want, okay? There's been too many examples in the past century in particular of building that hasn't created community value. So this here is the south, another glorious part of Queensland where I'm sitting today. And what we've done here as an example, I'll show you live in a minute. And because we've built a piece of infrastructure, it's quite wise to build property to capitalize on that infrastructure and the efficiency we have. So now what we're doing is we're doing a gross floor area kind of massing study to understand the capacity, and have the conversation, have it with internally in government often, and also with the community. Obviously, these are big changes. And again, these processes of engagement, communication, design review, testing, construction analysis, procurement of engineering companies, technical development. We've been doing this for 20 years and have helped accelerate the development of major cities, and Melbourne being, I guess, one of our major case studies. What this does is accelerates the process of thinking and development and communication. And that can mean, rather than taking 5 years to bring a project to life, it can take 2 years. Many of our clients give us testimonials of what took 9 months to have a conversation, maybe around fenestration, or can be pretty much anything, can now take 9 minutes. 9 months to 9 minutes is one of their catchphrases. That's an enormous value proposition to a smart city. So in this case here, we've got this reasonably ugly red dot is the LiDAR. So that's lasers from aeroplanes, and it can also be from the ground plane, overlaid with the photogrammetry, overlaid with the planning study. And you can see, and that's just an example, that doing that, using our solutions, using our services, and then you get this viewer with it, can really drive these projects forward very quickly. Okay, so taking that a little bit further onto major construction sites. Let's see if this thing plays. Same example, same type of data, same software, but now we're out there on a major site, in this case a major road project, and we're the site manager, and here we are on a day-to-day basis managing the safety of our staff and ensuring there's site segregation, just with the drag and drop capability of the technology that we've built to allow people to do this. So again, this is happening very slowly. It's very difficult on sites. So for an asset manager, road manager, rail manager, construction company, urban manager, these tools are very powerful. I'll give you another example. In the level crossings projects in Melbourne, we've been involved with for many years. Early on, the conversation is, should we put road over rail, road under rail, lift the rail? These are all conversations that need to be had. And there's an efficiency conversation when you're building a city, and there's community conversation. Okay, so having these conversations around, well, what is actually going to create the best result for the cities? And sometimes it might be more expensive at an infrastructure level, but from a property valuation level and a community level. So for example, in this scenario, it was thought at the beginning by the client that building a slot would be great because you wouldn't be able to see this thing, right? It'd be invisible. It's fantastic. But actually, you can see when you build a big slot like this, ignoring the utilities impact, which is actually quite significant, that you sever the community in half. No one can actually cross this chasm here, except at bridges. And that actually divides a community, similar to when it's at grade. So as much as it sounds like a great idea to not see the train line, and you can see here that we build a road under, in this example, which was also thought to be a good idea, that it makes it very difficult for the shops and the community to create a community feel here. So very, similar to the SimCity kind of concept. We've made a series of tools that allow these conversations to occur very quickly and resolve these issues and be saving millions and millions of dollars on studies that are often done in an abstracted kind of way, in plans, cross sections and drawings, and sometimes come up with the wrong answers. We don't even have columns on this one. It was so early in the day. So you say, I can hear you all asking this question: does this technology actually work? So I'll give you some live theatre under the risk that it works, given that my poor old computer's having a bad internet day and we're running on Zoom. Otherwise, we can go back to some more images and some more videos. So here's some examples of all that sorting itself out. We were recently in supporting Launceston, which is a city in Tasmania, supporting Launceston for one of their planning approvals. So here's a planning approval, a development assessment brought into Launceston, and it's being assessed from all sorts of points of view from around the city. So you can see this photogrammetric data, and you get 100% visibility. And this is very important to people who care about the shape and the design of their cities, which is traditionally the urban design fabric, urban design conversation, of exactly how this fits in. And this photogrammetric data, even though it's not pure and clean, it's very accurate to 10, 15 centimeters. And that's usually enough to have these conversations. So in this particular city, not on this particular project, we supported the city in a legal mediation process a couple of weeks ago to support the conversation around, well, how does something actually impact in the city? That again would have taken maybe a year to get through that conversation. the client was able to get through it in a few weeks, and the matter resolved very quickly with great confidence. It's a great equalizer. So if we want to build ourselves out of COVID, we need tools, systems, solutions, and capabilities that give us that ability to do it quickly. And that's what we have on offer. This is another example where particularly complex planning codes, town planning codes, are converted into what now looks very simple planimetric matters. So this is in Melbourne, where there is a code around protecting a particular view line to an important asset in the city, which is called the Shrine of Remembrance. It's a very important heritage asset in the city, and it's like protecting the view line to, say, St. Paul's Cathedral in London or the Houses of Parliament. And it's important that any buildings that are built around the edges of this park, and this is the shrine in this particular case, do not shadow or create a sense of cramping or overpowering this very important community asset, to give it dignity, respect, and a sense of place. And one thing we've really learned in COVID, I think all of us, for those who are allowed out, and a couple of my guys are on the call. One of them, Heinz, is based in Melbourne, and in Melbourne at the moment, people are still in lockdown. In other places, I'm in Queensland, the value of public space has become very important. So again, this is all made very fast and very easy inside the technology. Part of this is this particular view from the State Library down a street called Swanston Street to this Shrine of Remembrance to protect this dignity, this heritage. This is made all very fast and easy inside our technology. All right, let's see how we go. No, it's not going to work for us with Zoom. Okay. So what I wanted to show you was this working inside it doesn't look like I'm going to have a good bit of success here with the Zoom. The Zooms are taking over the computer, unfortunately. Okay, so here what we have, I've just turned on Adelaide, which is from a planning point of view and a community point of view, a very advanced city that is now deployed across many thousands of square kilometres, big interactive model that gives full visibility. And you can see here I have the LiDAR points with the photogrammetric points, giving a high level of certainty and confidence around how these pieces fit together. On the left is the new Royal Adelaide Hospital, I think one of the largest hospitals in the Southern Hemisphere. We were involved in the planning and the approval process of that. And now we've got that fully available for any assessment inside the city. Now what we can do, and what is done on a daily basis inside this model, and you can see here the size of it, and you can see here we have every tree available in LiDAR and also in photogrammetric, and we have various levels of that data available for levels of confidence in terms of assessment. So as we move through the environment, we can go into the rail corridor here, for example, and we do a lot of planning and assessment in the rail corridor. And then from the urban planning point of view as well. And that gives us total visibility of every element. So you can see here the bridges, buildings, the roads, everything is available instantly for pretty much any conversation that you want to have around the city, which we can then call the smart city. This could be the smart city concept, which is really bringing this city to life and putting it inside your hand so you can have any conversation at any point. How am I going for time? I think the last guy ran over a bit, so I don't want to be taking over the next person's time in this. Inside the city, we have the, so here's an example of Victoria Square inside of Adelaide. And what you get is the ability to move through this space and bring it to life and integrate all these different types of data and then do your assessment and do your design. A lot of our clients are saying the aggregation, there are so many people with so much data, the pure aggregation of this data in one point gives a very high level of power and confidence, for example, for urban heat mapping, for transport analysis, for pedestrian walkability, for the view lines, for the assessments, for the shadows. All these impacts are available and visible on the fly and dynamically, instantly for you, for all clients. And this is the value that's being driven inside the city. Here's an example I'll just show you from our website to make it easy to find for those who are interested, of the same kind of concept. And now what we're doing is we are supporting the development of railway lines. This is one of the many versions of the railway lines you saw earlier, for example, being brought into this context. So you can see here we have actually all of Melbourne. And what we're doing is we're wanting to assess at a high level of confidence and detail in an animated environment how this piece of infrastructure is going to sit in and talk with the city. So firstly, we're doing some shadow analysis here, and that gives us a high level of confidence that as we slide through, in this case, an elevated railway through the city, that the impacts that that will be managed and minimized, and we can make smart decisions, not just for the rail itself and the rail operators, which is also very important, but right down into the community impacts. Here we're doing heat mapping, height analysis across the city on how this connects. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in. You can see the trains actually moving there. Do a whole lot of measurements, and we've stood up in court with a bunch of barristers to help them analyse and have rapid conversations around the impact and the assurance and the verification of these elements in the city, which again saves everyone a lot of money in the environmental impact and effect statements. It's a very expensive process when there's a lot of barristers in the room. And now what we'll do is you'll see we do a lot of work then into the rail operations space, in driver training, driver familiarisation, and then we're also in the same technology able to do a whole bunch of assessments, visual impact assessments and sensitivity assessments on sitting in people's backyards when they need their privacy. And you can see we've done a whole bunch of design optioneering around the height of the visibility screens to give people the privacy and dignity they deserve, as well as creating a highly efficient and operational railway scenario. It's very important. And then we move into exactly the same data. We do a lot of communications. So using here's your BIM and your GIS, and then taking that into an engagement communications type medium, so people can really understand the feel and effect of this place when it's, you can see the buses and the vehicles and the pedestrian integration through this space, and really bringing it to life has been a very important part of the process. Okay, I think that's my time. Thank you very much for listening to me today. From us at Urban Circus, please do look us up when you want to accelerate your property and your infrastructure projects in your cities and also in other areas.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. It was a great presentation. So I'll open up the floor to the audience. If they have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Hafiz. Well done, Benjamin. Really interesting. David Kavanagh here from Integrated Energy. We've been using the drone photogrammetry combo for a while. I was wondering if you extended across, we also bring it into multi-person VR for our design consultations. Can we bring in from your system into our VR?
We're doing a lot of augmented reality and virtual reality, yeah, definitely, including very high-end now around materials approvals processes in subsurface railway stations. Seems to be quite an important value add for customers, as well as driver training. Which kind of areas are you doing?
Actually, we're doing hydrogen stations around Australia right now, but we also have done a lot of control centres, operation centres, headquarters for mining and energy companies, that sort of application.
Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yes, I have a question. I'm David here. Yeah, excellent talk, and I like it so much. Now, how would you see your tool integrating with the concept of digital twinning of cities, where most of the application then will rely upon real-time data retrieved through 5G connectivity?
I think it sounds fantastic, and we're in various conversations with various cities on this. And if you can feed us the data, we can present the data. The problem is not at our end. The problem typically is at the end of the supplier, and we've been having this conversation with various machine operators of high-end equipment around their ability to provide high accuracy positional data, because when you're in 3D, it's not like Google Maps where you can be plus or minus a couple of meters left and right, or X and Y, and 5 meters Z in the height direction. When things are in 3D, it's very obvious when things don't connect. And then it's also, you've got the time dimension, so it's 4D. You can see everything in my space is moving. So if you're only outputting data every 1 second, we're moving at 25 to 60 frames a second, sometimes more. If you're only outputting data every 1 minute, 1 second, then things just sort of jump through the environment. Yeah, so we welcome the 5G revolution, and it would help me as well because I'm running on 4G data here. Yeah. So no problem. It's all data feeds. All that data I was showing was running from the cloud. So the faster it is, the better.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, if there are no questions, thank you very much, Dr. Benjamin. It was a pleasure having you, and that you had a great presentation. So have a great day.
Thank you for your invite. Thank you for your invite very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.